Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're venturing into Indonesian governance. Specifically, we're taking a closer look at the Attorney General's Office, the Kejaksaan Agung Republik Indonesia.
That's right.
Our goal is really to get a handle on what this institution does, its structure, and, its history based on the materials we've gathered.
I have a fascinating one. This office is so central to Indonesia's legal system. Understanding it really gives you a window into how the country works, legally speaking. We've looked at official charts, historical stuff, lists of past AGs.
Yeah, quite a bit. And just to start us off with something interesting, the Attorney General's office wasn't always its own thing. It actually started out under the Ministry of Justice.
A key detail.
Okay, so let's get down to basics. What exactly is the Attorney General's office in Indonesia?
Well, fundamentally, it's the main body that advises the Indonesian government on legal matters. Sort of the government's chief lawyer, you could say.
Right, but it does more than just advise, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely. It's also the central hub for the whole Indonesian Public Prosecution Service, the Kejaksaan Republik Indonesia.
So it oversees all the public prosecutors across the country.
Exactly. It's the top of the pyramid for public prosecution. And the person leading it all is, naturally, the Attorney General of Indonesia.
And it's based in Jakarta. Makes sense. So about that person at the top, the Attorney General, what kind of role are we talking about?
It's a very senior position. Cabinet level, actually. So firmly in the executive branch.
And appointed directly by the president.
Yes, directly by the president.
Now, there was that detail about their term length running alongside the president's term. Is that a recent thing?
It is, relatively speaking. That was established by a constitutional court ruling back in 2010. It kind of links the AG's tenure directly to the president who appointed them.
Interesting. Ensures some alignment, perhaps.
Probably the intention, yes. Ensures synergy between the president's agenda and the AG's office.
Okay. So considerable authority, then. They also represent the government at the Supreme Court. That sounds a bit like a Solicitor General role elsewhere.
That's a good comparison. They function like that, yes.
Yeah.
Representing the government in the highest court. And, maybe most critically, they have the power to indict people, to prosecute alleged criminals.
That's a core power.
Absolutely.
And who's holding the position right now?
The current Attorney General is Sanitier Burhanuddin. He's been in office since October 23rd, 2019.
Okay. So we've got a basic idea of what the office is and the AG's role. Now let's get into the structure. It looks pretty detailed.
It is quite complex, yeah. You have the Attorney General, the Jaksa Agung, at the very top, guiding everything. Then there's the Vice Attorney General assisting them.
The Wakil Jaksa Agung, what's their main job?
Basically, they step in for the AG if needed, cover their duties. They also handle specific tasks the AG gives them. It's a crucial number 2 position.
Got it. And then the 6 Deputy Attorneys General, the Jaksa Agung Muda, each covering a different area. Let's start with advancement, Bidang Pembenahan. What's under their umbrella?
Right, advancement. This deputy is essentially looking after the internal workings and development of the whole office. Think planning, getting resources, organization, HR.
So the nuts and bolts.
Exactly. Personnel, finances, managing assets, legal opinions, even international cooperation and public service stuff. It's all about keeping the institution running smoothly and moving forward. It's interesting how it mixes internal efficiency with external things like international links.
That is interesting, sort of the engine room. And they have bureaus under them for planning. HR, finance, legal, and foreign cooperation. Okay. Next, intelligence Bidang Intelligent. Sounds intriguing.
It is. This area focuses on intelligence for investigations, security issues, crime prevention.
And travel bans, too.
Yes, travel bans, maintaining public order. They have several directorates digging into specific areas.
Like,
well, there's one for ideology, politics, defense, security. Another for social, cultural, public affairs, economic and financial stuff. Even strategic development, security, and IT for intelligence production. It's a pretty comprehensive setup.
wow. Okay. Very thorough. All right, moving on. General Criminal Bidang Tindak Pidana Umum. This sounds more like, everyday crime.
Pretty much. This deputy handles the standard criminal cases, from pretrial, indictment, legal actions, carrying out sentences, even looking at parole for these general crimes.
And they break that down further.
They do. Directorates for crimes against people and property, crimes against state security or public order, narcotics, addictive substances, and interestingly, terrorism and transnational crimes also fall here.
That's quite a range. Okay, then there's special criminal bidang tindak pidana khusus.
Yeah.
What makes a crime special here?
Well, the source material doesn't give us a strict definition, but this deputy handles legal actions for these special crimes. We can get some clues for the directorates underneath them.
Such as,
There's investigation, prosecution, one for extraordinary legal actions and executions, and notably, a directorate on grave violations of basic human rights.
oh, okay, grave human rights violations. That suggests these are particularly serious, maybe systemic issues.
That seems likely, yes. Things needing a very specialized focus.
Makes sense. Next, civil and state administrative bidang perdata dan tata usaha negara. This sounds like when the government itself is involved in a case.
Exactly right. This deputy deals with law enforcement, legal help, and opinions for the state government bodies, state companies in civil and state administrative cases. A big part is protecting national assets, the state's reputation, and also providing public legal aid.
So they're the government's lawyers for non-criminal stuff.
That's a good way to put it. And they have directorates for civil affairs, state administrative affairs, and legal consideration, probably for detailed legal advice in these areas.
Okay, quite the org chart we're navigating. Next is military criminal bidang pidana militer. This one's clear it's about the military.
Yes, their main job is technical cooperation on indicting military personnel. They work with military prosecutors and handle the connection between civil and military justice systems. Shows there's a separate track for military justice sometimes.
Right, and their directorates reflect that. Military justice enforcement, prosecution, executions, and extraordinary actions within that military context. Okay, last one. Supervision bidang pengawasan. Sounds like internal oversight.
Precisely. This deputy oversees the performance and internal finances of the whole service. Planning, executing, controlling that oversight, plus any specific oversight tasks from the AG.
And they have inspectorates doing the actual supervising.
Yes, several inspectorates. Some watch over specific deputy AG offices or the high prosecutor's offices in the regions. There's also a dedicated inspectorate just for finance, checking the books everywhere.
Seems like a solid check and balance system. Now, beyond these main deputies, what else is part of the central office?
Well, there's an education and training agency, Badan Pendidikan dan Pelatihan, which is crucial for keeping prosecutors up to date.
Professional development. Makes sense.
Then you have advisors, the staff ahli, who give expert advice on different issues.
And these central agencies, the PUSAT.
Right, specialized centers. Things like a law enforcement policy strategy center, legal information center, one for data, crime stats, and IT, and importantly, an asset recovery center.
Asset recovery. Focusing on getting back illicit funds, presumably.
That would be its purpose, yes.
It's definitely a complex, layered organization. And we also learned the high prosecutor's offices out in the provinces report directly back to this central office?
That's correct. They're based in provincial capitals, cover the whole province, and are directly subordinate to the Attorney General's office in Jakarta. They're the regional arms, essentially.
Okay. So we have a good sense of the what and how. Let's shift to the when, the history. You mentioned earlier it wasn't always independent. How did it start?
Right. It goes back to August 1945,
Yeah.
just after Indonesia declared independence.
A really foundational moment.
Indeed. But back then, it was just a department inside the Ministry of Justice. It only became a separate, standalone institution much later, on July 22, 1960. That evolution tells you something about the growing importance of this legal function.
And who was the very first Attorney General?
That was Gatot Taranami Harja.
Good to know the origins. Where was the office located initially?
Interestingly, it first shared a building complex with the first Supreme Court.
Right.
On Lapangan, Banteng Timur Street in Jakarta.
Sharing space.
Yes. And that building itself had history. It used to be the Dutch colonial high court, the Hooggerechtshof te Batavia.
Wow, so layers of legal history right there in the building.
Absolutely. It shows how these new Indonesian institutions were established, sometimes literally in the footprint of the old colonial ones.
And they worked closely with the Supreme Court early on, you said?
Very closely. There was even a 1947 act that confirmed this joint organization and authority. They were really intertwined at the start.
But they did eventually separate.
Yes, that happened in 1961 with the Service Act. That really marked the AG's office becoming its own distinct entity, separate from the judiciary structure, allowed it to develop its own focus.
And where is it located today? It moved from that original spot.
Right. In 1968, under Attorney General Sozi Arto, the office moved to its current location on Sultan Hassanuddin Street in Kebayoran Baru.
And that building had a major incident recently, didn't it?
Unfortunately, yes. There was a serious fire in the main building on August 22, 2020.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, the old building had to be demolished and rebuilt. The reconstruction finished up in late 2022. A tough challenge, but shows resilience.
Definitely. And just circling back to that very first office location, the one that was the Dutch High Court, there was another layer to its history.
Yes, quite fascinating. Before was the High Court. Part of that complex served as the headquarters for the Governors General of the Dutch East Indies.
No kidding. From the colonial governor's HQ to the High Court, then to Indonesia's first Supreme Court and AG's office.
Exactly. It really highlights the incredible transition and evolution of institutions and power in Indonesia, all centered on that one location initially.
That really paints a picture. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what are the main things we should take away about Indonesia's Attorney General's office?
Well, I think firstly, it's clear this is a really crucial multi-layered institution. It's got a deep history, and it plays a vital role today, advising the government, prosecuting crime nationwide.
And its structure is quite complex, reflecting all those jobs.
Definitely. Headed by the AG, supported by the Vice AG, those 6 deputies covering everything from internal admin and intelligence to different types of crime, civil matters, even military justice and oversight. Plus the training, advisory, and central support units.
And tracing its path from being part of a ministry closely tied to the Supreme Court to becoming this powerful, independent body that's been really insightful. It gives you a real feel for how Indonesian governance and law operate.
Absolutely. Which kind of leads to a final thought for you, the listener, to maybe mull over. Given how much this office has evolved already, from a ministry department to a standalone power center, how might its role and structure continue to change, as Indonesia itself keeps developing legally and politically?
That's a great question to ponder. It's clearly a dynamic institution in a dynamic country. Its future path will definitely be worth watching.